All right, welcome again. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining if you're a regular with us on this monthly series, and thanks for joining if it's your first time. Today, we are focused on Copilot for third-party applications. So adding another functionality to Microsoft 365 Copilot. Excited to share with you today. With me today again is Tony Robinson, our Microsoft practice leader, and Eric Clausen is joining us today, who's our sales manager in our Missoula, Montana market. Thanks, fellas, for joining and for staying up to date as possible on Copilot. As we get started, again, make sure and use the Q&A feature throughout the presentation. We'll do our best to answer all your questions at the end or maybe mid-presentation. And if you stump us, we will follow up via email with some answers. With that, in case you don't know who we are, only a couple slides, I promise, but I think it's relative. First, because we are a mission-driven company and everything we do points to our mission. Our mission is to create strategic advantages designed to help our partners grow their businesses. If anything can help create strategic advantages for a business, and we continue to see it more and more every month or week as Copilot and AI is adopted, it is just that. In case you aren't familiar with Kelly Create, we were founded in 1974, so 51 years old this year. We've got over 35 locations across the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, Washington, Montana, Northern Idaho, and Alaska. We work with over 20,000 client partners every month, pushing almost 400 team members now. Roughly half of those are technicians or engineers, the people on our team that actually deliver those strategic solutions. We're headquartered in Kent, Washington, but really we consider each of our locations across the Pacific Northwest their own headquarters with the ability to serve our partners and drive business solutions forward. What do we do? At the end of the day, we call them modern office technology solutions, broken into 4 different segments: cloud and IT services, things we're talking about today, Copilot, Microsoft 365, Azure, IT support type solutions, cybersecurity solutions, as well as physical solutions, physical security solutions, whether that would be security cameras, AI security cameras, whether that would be managed detection and response, email security, and the like. Cybersecurity, obviously huge today. Automation and software solutions, business process automation, AP automation, cloud fax solutions, HR and document management solution, and office equipment solutions, printing and sending solutions to make your office run more effectively. If it's a modern office solution, we can probably help. But today we continue our journey on Copilot. If you've been with us across this journey, we've been on it for roughly a year now. If you need to play catch up, we have all of our past webinars on our website. You can go to our website and our events page and see all of our past Copilot webinars, or we have a specific Copilot page as well with more information on Copilot and the ability to watch webinars from the start. Over time, we really got started with an intro. We've gone through Copilot in different applications. We've spent time on prompting. We've gone into Copilot Studio a bit. And then today we're really focused on third-party applications that can connect to Copilot. Really, one of the powers of Copilot compared to other AI tools such as ChatGPT or others is the integration into your Microsoft applications. But what's pretty cool is Copilot has connectors. We'll use the word connector for lack of a better term, connectors into other applications. Some of the ones on the screen, TeamViewer, Dropbox, Monday, Zendesk, different applications that allow you to harness the power of Copilot in non-Microsoft applications. So adds a ton of additional power to the Copilot that you use every day within your Microsoft applications. Again, our focus is to hopefully just shed some light, generate some interest, and have you start thinking, which of these could I utilize in my business? In a limited time, we're not going to get to a ton of different applications. Today, we're going to focus on Dropbox and Salesforce and show, hey, what's the range of things out there? How easy is it to use some of these third-party connectors? And we'll dive into some of the functionality behind the connector to Dropbox and the connector to Salesforce. But don't pigeonhole yourself into just those connectors. It is a much wider view of what is possible. Use Salesforce and Dropbox in your mind, even if you don't use them in your business, to show the ability of what's available. So with that, Tony, I'll turn it over to you to take us away.
All right. Thanks, Scott. And yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. Like Scott said, we're going to talk about external connections with Copilot today. We're going to start with Dropbox. We'll show you Salesforce in a little bit. But before we get into that, I just want to talk a little bit about Copilot licensing, just because it is relevant here and don't want anyone leaving with the wrong impression. Mainly that there are several flavors of Copilot licensing. So the one I have, and the one I'm going to be showing you with Dropbox, is Copilot for Microsoft 365. But there's, Copilot for Copilot Studio, Copilot for Sales, Copilot for Finance, all the different flavors. Now, almost all of them do what we normally think of as Copilot stuff. So like one of the ones I just mentioned, you can summarize meetings like this. You can use it to scrounge through your emails to try to find that thing someone sent you, or help you schedule a meeting, draft an email or a document. But they all have their specialties. So like the one that I personally use is Copilot for Microsoft 365. That one gives me access to Copilot Studio to develop agents for myself that I can then use, deploy to my org, all that kind of good stuff. We talked about that in the last webinar that we did. The one that Eric has is Copilot for Sales, and that's what allows him to leverage the Salesforce connector. So just want to call out that Copilot is not quite Copilot. There are several different flavors. They all have their own specialties. They mostly do normal Copilot stuff, but just want to call out that you got to have the right licensing in some cases, and we're happy to talk through that with you if you're at all wondering what you need. All right, so having said that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen out, and we will get into it. So let's talk about Dropbox. So real quick, there are two ways that with Copilot right now that you connect with external solutions: through agents and through connectors. And we sometimes shorthand, and these names may change, by the way, in the next few months because the language seems to be evolving a bit. But just be aware that I may mix up connector with agent a few times, but it all just means connections to external things. So let's talk about Dropbox. You can see it here. We'll get back to this in a minute, but just to show you real quick, I'm in Teams, right? So a lot of us have Teams, use Teams for lots of things. Teams is doing this webinar right now. There are a whole bunch of apps and different external things you can add into Teams. So Dropbox happens to be one of those. And just to show you real quick, it's as simple as clicking on these three dots or these apps, right? So you click on three dots here, there's Dropbox. I can click Get More Apps if it wasn't there. Dropbox was there for me because I've used it before. So we want to key in here on is agents. So these are all Copilot agents that connect something into Teams. So you can see there's quite a few of them here, right? And you probably recognize several of these. And another, I think, important point to make is, as Scott said, we started this journey 1 year ago, right? So 1 year into this journey, there are, I don't know how many this is, 75, 100, something like. There's lots of agents you can connect into external things. These are growing all the time. So chances are coming this next week, there's 5 more that I didn't notice before. So if your agent is not in here now or your connector is not in here yet, that doesn't mean that it's never going to exist. In fact, it probably means give it 2 or 3 months and it may. Or you can even ask your software of choice and call them up and ask if they have any Copilot connectors in the works. So anyway, for any of these, we're talking about the built-in connections today, right? So the ones that are simple. So I don't have to do anything to add Dropbox. It's already there. I just click the add button, right? Or the open button in this case, and it lets me connect to it. And you can see it gives you some options here. Just for the sake of, I want to show you a few other things. You can click and open Copilot chat and it'll open right in there, let you log in. I'm going to show you a couple of other things real quick though. So I'm going to click on it this way. This is the actual app in Teams. So you can see I have a few other, there's my Copilot app. Here's my Dropbox app. So there's this login button here. If you were doing this the first time, you would add Dropbox, click login, and it will take you right next door here to this little Dropbox tab, and there'll be a login, normal Dropbox login screen, right? So a few days ago, I logged in with my Dropbox credentials, or actually earlier this morning, I logged in with my Dropbox credentials. So I don't have to do it now and have you guys watch the spinning wheel. But main point here is I logged in my Dropbox, and so you can also see your files. I mean, aside from the things that Copilot can do with this, I just want to call out this Dropbox app is kind of nice in that these are now in Teams. You can do things like share to Teams, just like you can with OneDrive. So if you have any one of those folks out there that uses Dropbox instead of OneDrive, you can still use Teams and share files in Teams and stuff like that in a pretty robust way with this app, this Copilot agents, basically. So just want to call that, and you can also see I've got some resumes. I don't normally use Dropbox. I just put a sample of documents in here to mess around with for this demo. So anyway, you can access your Dropbox files. You can put them just fine. Got them open the other screen. You can't see it, but just want to call that out real quick. So let's move over to Copilot now. Right, so here's my Copilot that is there because I have a Copilot for Microsoft 365 license. And because I added, you remember when we popped up in the agents, there was that add button that said Copilot for Microsoft 365. So I added it there. It now shows up as one of my agents that I have access to, right? So here's the agent we messed with in one of the previous demos. These are all my agents that I have. So I'm gonna click on Dropbox now. And similar to other agents, it's just a Copilot agent. It's got some prompts here that you can use if you want to. So like you click, do I have video files in Dropbox? We saw on mine, I just have some Word documents, right? So it should come back with, no, you don't have any. But you can also do other kind of cool things, right? So, okay, I don't have any video files. I get that. How many files do I have? Let's see if it'll figure that out. And it might even list them for me. So, yep. That's the other thing to say. This is AI, so the responses you get are not always the same every time. So I'm always interested to see what it tells me this time compared to last time. And in Copilot fashion, right, it tells the info. It also gives you references here, right? So it says, well, I found 5 documents. And look, I can click on here and open in Dropbox if I want to. And, you can see it starts to open it up over here. Pretty turnkey for us there. So let's do something a little bit more interesting, maybe. See if it can summarize these a little bit for us. See, this is one of those things that's different sometimes. So this is giving me very high level info that I think it mainly got from the document name here. Yesterday when I was practicing this, it was actually giving me a summary of each document. Let me just see what it can do. Let me just see if I can prompt it. Let's see what it does with that. It's not looking good. All right. So it's connected to Dropbox, a third party, and I have a feeling there's some maybe issues that pop with it sometimes. So it does give me some very basic stuff. Current role as Microsoft Practice Lead, recent project. So it's getting info from there. That's interesting. It's giving me the link. That's great. Not quite what I was hoping to show, but you get the idea here, right? It can pull basic info out of Dropbox documents. It is Dropbox, not OneDrive, not SharePoint, right? So it's not stuff in your tenant. So that's actually another thing I should point out. And you may have noticed if you work with Copilot, when you first get access to something, it takes Copilot a while to sort of index everything and read through it, basically, right? So if I were truly to have just turned this on, it probably would not have, it might not have even found all 5 documents immediately. So it takes a little bit, give a little bit of time to figure things out. Let's ask it one more pretty simple question just to see what it comes up with. And nope, doesn't. So I literally did this right before this meeting, and it told me I had 15 years of experience, which is what is in the first resume I have. So here it's figuring it out, but it's not quite accurate. So again, AI generated content may be incorrect. So just be aware of that. But the main point here is that I was able to connect Copilot to Dropbox, get some basic info about these documents, and in AI fashion, you got to double check it, keep it on track, all that kind of good stuff. And then the other thing I wanted to call out is This, remember, was a pre-made agent. I didn't have to go in and do any kind of creation. All I had to do was add it to my Teams and then log into my Dropbox, and it's all just there for me. So that's the beauty of those pre-built agents I showed you. I'll show you some of the pre-built connectors later on. But just want to make sure you don't have to have any technical ability. This is things that Microsoft has partnered with these companies to create that list of agents you saw. That list is growing all the time. And that wraps up for the Dropbox demo.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. And I think right, what is the real world application of Dropbox and Copilot? Because perfect world, maybe documents live in OneDrive, in SharePoint, but we know it's not always a perfect world, right? Maybe you live in Microsoft, but for whatever reason, legacy, you've been in Dropbox for a long time and have zero interest in moving all of your Dropbox functionality to SharePoint, to OneDrive, to Teams. That's fine. We can do most of the same things with that Dropbox connector and Copilot, and you still have Microsoft 365 Copilot built into your apps. There's other scenarios where maybe we see some of our client partners have a split infrastructure in file storage. They use SharePoint for internal to the company, but maybe they have, we see it often with sales subcontractors. They don't want to give them access to their SharePoint tenant, and they have a Dropbox organization for those subcontractors. So there might be people internal to the company who work in the Microsoft world, OneDrive, SharePoint, but also need to work in that Dropbox area as well, and still want the ability to use Copilot across both applications. So a lot of application for connectors such as this, and we see a lot of power in Dropbox, because if you've been using Dropbox for a long time, there might not be a reason to change, right? So this still gives you the power of Copilot over the top of Dropbox.
I also want to call out one more time. I encourage everyone to go into Teams. If you're at all interested in this type of thing and seeing what you can connect, just go into the apps thing here, click on agents, and browse around here, right? There's a lot of them. See if anything piques your interest or something that you use today. So just want to point out, and maybe do that once every quarter or something like that to see what's been added in lately, because this is constantly changing.
All right, thanks, Tony. And then transitioning, so that was Dropbox. That was a part of your Microsoft 365 Copilot license. Transitioning to the other tie-in would be Salesforce. Salesforce, obviously a very heavy used SaaS application in today's world with a lot of different pieces. So Tony, and then I think Eric's gonna really show us how he utilizes that in a sales role as well.
Yep. I just want to do a quick introduction here to, we know I just showed you the agents that I use to connect Dropbox, but I want to do a quick intro to the connectors part of things. So there are fewer connectors than agents. I'm guessing it's because they're more complex. I'm not really sure all the idea Microsoft has behind this, but just to show you, this is I mentioned my Copilot for Microsoft 365 license allows me to create agents in Copilot Studio, and two of the main parts of the agent are the knowledge and the actions. So just to show you real quick here, if I click add knowledge, you can see some basic Microsoft stuff comes up. But if you hit advanced, this symbol is connectors, right? So enterprise data connections. So these are the connectors that are pre-built already. Again, the partnership with Microsoft and these various companies. So you saw a lot of these logos on that slide Scott showed earlier. So Salesforce, what we've shown today, just want to call this out as these are the current ones. Again, coming here next quarter, there's probably several more added to this, more added all the time. And it's not quite just those. Another place to keep an eye on is actions. And there's not a lot of cool ones here. You can see Excel is awesome, Power Automate, great. There's MSN Weather if you need that for some reason. But what I mainly want to show you here is you can do custom connectors. We've mentioned this before in other webinars. I just want to mention it one more time. If you do have a burning need, or you think there'd be if your business could really benefit from connecting your ERP system to Copilot, you can create custom connectors. That does require some development skills and things like that, and working with the other application. But it is certainly possible right now. Rather than waiting for a partnership with Microsoft and a built-in one to have happen, you may be able to jumpstart that and create one yourself. So just wanted to call that out and show you the few connectors